Welcome IDV players to Season 32 Essence 2. This season introduces a new survivor, the Ghost Girl. Okay, not really a ghost, but a Pharaoh Lady whose abilities make her seem like one. Undetected, unseen. She's here to make your matches either awesome or downright miserable. Ready to face her? Or perhaps ready to be her?
Bruh.
Well, meet Evelyn Mora, the Pharaoh Lady. She is a decoding type character with abilities that will leave hunters scratching their heads. Her first ability lets her steal progress from other cipher machines to decode faster. Think of it as borrowing with no intention of returning. Her second ability, she becomes one with nature, kiting like a ninja and blending in seamlessly.
Bruh.
And her third trick? She fakes moves so convincingly that hunters will be chasing shadows, believing she's darted one way when she's actually standing still or heading in the opposite direction. Master her skills, and you'll be a ghost in the machine! Since her arrival, I've been hooked, trying out the Pharaoh Lady in over 100 matches. In this video, I'll share my deep dive into her abilities, her strengths, and yes, even her flaws. Stay tuned for the full scoop on the Pharaoh Lady and learn how to make the most of her ghostly talents. The Pharaoh Lady is the 7th and newest decoder in the game, joining the ranks of other cipher-cracking pros. Like every decoder out there, she speeds up the decryption process, but her method is unorthodox. She has to connect herself to an untouched, but already started cipher machine, draining its progress to boost her own decoding speed. I like to call her a vampire for this reason. Instead of sucking blood, she's sucking the life out of other cipher machines. It's a tricky maneuver, but once mastered, you'll love her vampiric efficiency. Aside from her decoding buff, the Pharaoh Lady also comes with her own set of debuffs, as most decoders do. Unlike Helena or Tracy, she doesn't suffer from vaulting speed debuffs. Instead, her weakness shows when she tries to rescue someone from the rocket chair. She rescues so slowly that hunters can practically take a coffee break and still give her a terror shock. However, thanks to her cloaking ability, rescuing as her is doable, if you practice hard enough. Talking about her cloaking skill, it's definitely one of my favorites. There have been countless times when the hunter is just swinging their weapon around aimlessly, while the Pharaoh Lady casually watches, maybe even sipping coffee. Now, I'll share my experiences and maybe give you a few tips on using her cloaking ability. I'm no expert, but if it works for me, hey, it's worth giving it a shot. The Pharaoh Lady has this one skill that makes her invisible to the enemy. Well, almost invisible, to be exact. But since most hunters I've encountered can't seem to hit her while she's cloaked, I might as well say she's invisible. She's like a ghost straight out of a Hollywood movie, ready to haunt your dreams after you fail to catch her. Despite that, her skill can be tricky if you're not used to it. We're all taught to kite by running as far away from the hunter as possible, using every trick in the book to keep our distance. The Pharaoh Lady, however, works a bit differently. While cloaking, you become invisible to the hunters, but they can still see your footsteps. So, if you keep running straight, the hunter will follow your trail like a bloodhound. The solution? You have to slip away silently, which means getting as close as possible to the hunter and then sneaking away. This takes practice because, let's face it, we're all mentally trained to run as far away as possible, not tiptoe around the hunter like we're auditioning for a role in a spy movie. Once you get the hang of it, kiting with the Pharaoh Lady is a blast. No more frantically running and meticulously planning your escape route. Just wave your magic wand and watch as the hunter chases your phantom scent. Then, you can calmly stroll in the opposite direction, leaving them utterly confused. Speaking of which, I'll explain the magic wand trick in more detail later on. Her cloaking ability is a real trump card in places with lots of two-story platforms. Just like the female dancer, the Faro Lady excels in areas like Darkwoods, Sacred Heart Hospital, and Ever Sleeping Town, thanks to their multi-level structures. She's a ghostly ninja in those environments. But put her in places like Arms Factory or Red Church, and she's like a fish out of water. Or rather, a ghost without her haunted house. And if you ask why two-story platforms work best for her, the answer lies in mind games. Basically, it's about making the hunter think the Faro Lady has jumped off the second platform, when in reality, she's just standing still, extending the chase and making it more effective. For a better understanding, check out this clip and watch the hunters get bamboozled. It's kinda tricky at first, but after you try it several times, you'll get the hang of it. One thing to remember about the cloak ability is that it automatically disappears when you cross the safety line and interact with certain objects, like vaulting windows or pallets. So, if you're planning a dramatic entrance or a quick getaway, keep an eye out. Your cloak also vanishes when you interact with other people's stuff, such as the priestess's portals or whatever Demi's sipping on these days. The next skill she has is the Aromatherapy cane, or as I like to call it, the magic wand. Using this skill is like throwing a frisbee for your dog to chase. No offense to the hunters, but it really does look like that. You toss a scent in a certain direction, and the hunter eagerly chases after it, sometimes even wasting their blink skill in the process. I've seen it happen multiple times, and it's absolutely hilarious. I use this skill when I'm in a pinch, like when I'm caught in the open and need to disappear fast. This skill is a real lifesaver because many hunters give up once they realize they've been tricked. To use it, simply direct the scent where you want the hunter to go. And if they're clueless, they'll chase it without a second thought. In my experience, this trick works best when you're on the second platform and throw the scent to the first platform. When the hunter realizes you're still on top, they'll have to navigate their way back up, buying you precious time. Another prime moment to use this trick is when you're caught in the open and want the hunter to think you've run to a strong kiting spot. Just throw the scent toward the nearest kiting point and sprint in the opposite direction. I once had a match in Ever Sleeping Town where a T-Rex was jumping around, convinced I was headed to the graveyard to kite him. Aside from kiting, this ability is also a lifesaver for rescues. The Faro Lady has a huge disadvantage when it comes to rescuing. Personally, I usually avoid rescuing because I often end up getting terror shocked. But after countless attempts, I finally figured out how to pull off a rescue with her. Trick is to make the hunter think you're approaching the rocket chair while you're actually waiting for the perfect moment. This is where the Aromatherapy cane becomes your best friend. Use it to throw the scent near the chair, then sneak in when the hunter is distracted. Though, I'd say it's a 50% chance of a perfect rescue at best while using this trick. When you do pull it off and manage a successful rescue, you usually end up body blocking the rescued survivor. That's what usually happens to me, at least. Now let's dive into her decoding ability. With the Faro Lady, you'll have the advantage of knowing exactly where every cipher machine is and how much progress each one has made. By using this ability, you can make a pretty good guess about where the hunter might be. Just look for a machine that's partially decoded but abandoned. So, even if your teammate forgets to ping you about the hunter's whereabouts, you can still Sherlock your way to an educated guess. Plus, this ability makes decoding way more efficient. You'll know which machines have already been started, so you can skip the guesswork and head straight to them instead of blindly decoding a new one from zero progress. The real deal of this skill, though, is linking the machine that the Faro Lady is working on to one that's been partly decoded but left behind. This speeds up her decoding but resets the abandoned machine's progress. It can be frustrating, though, if someone's already decoded a machine to, say, 50% or more, only for the Faro Lady to connect and reset it back to zero. Personally, I'd stick to using this ability on machines with less than 50% progress, or even less than 25% if it's nearby. Now that everything's out in the open, let's talk about the love-hate relationship I have with her. As someone who isn't the best at kiting and relies heavily on hiding, I really like the Faro Lady. Her invisibility cloak keeps me out of sight most of the time, which is great because I can avoid the whole kiting ordeal. Plus, it's hilarious watching hunters scratch their heads after realizing they've been bamboozled. Some hunters try to track down the Faro Lady using the peeper, which is useless because it doesn't work on her. It's a real boon for those who prefer hiding over kiting. As for hunters, I love facing those with single-hit abilities like Michiko, Mary, Lucino, Ithaqa, and others. They rely on quick chases, so I can lead them on a wild goose chase with my ghostly tricks, making them look pretty foolish. On the flip side, the Faro Lady is like a fish out of water against hunters with area control abilities, like Bonbon, Galatea, and Norton Campbell. They turn the playing field into a minefield that I can't move freely because their abilities restrict the area. Plus, the chip damage they inflict can cancel the Faro Lady's cloaking skill, making herself visible on the spot. But the biggest headache with the Faro Lady is Leo Beck. Sure, dealing with Leo himself is manageable, but those dolls, they're like metal detectors. They know exactly where I am even when I'm cloaked. Leo Beck gives me the headaches more than anything else when I'm playing as the Faro Lady. Overall, the Faro Lady is an easy character to utilize once you've mastered the art of hiding. She's not a top-tier meta character like the Seer or Priestess, but as a decoder, she's solid. No kiting debuffs mean you can still kite decently. And with a good rescuer on the team, well, rescue duty becomes almost optional. Almost. Just a heads up, I'm not exactly a Faro Lady badge holder or an expert, so if you've got your own thoughts or ideas about her, drop them in the comments. My tips might not be top tier, but hey, hope they at least give you a chuckle or two. Thanks for tuning in, folks.